Am I the a-hole for refusing to see other options for a girl and pressing charges for what she did to my son's car? Welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go over them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, I'm going to go over a story titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to see other options for a girl and pressing charges for what she did to my son's car? And guys, this story is all about a guy. He's sharing his story about a thing that went down about his son's ex-girlfriend. His son had this girlfriend who was a neighbor or in the neighborhood, and he always knew there was something off about her. She was obviously just complete wacko, to put it mildly, and it sounds like her whole family was screwed up. And long story short, you're going to see in this guy's brief but important story here, the son eventually breaks up with her, and the girl obviously has had a history of throwing tantrums and fights and drama, and all of a sudden things start happening to his son's car. Vandalism. And it gets worse and worse, and eventually just completely really bad and destroyed. And they guess what they catch her and her brother red-handed. However, her parents, as parents are nowadays, want to try to make a deal to keep from pressing charge. But this guy, oh no, she's getting it, and she deserves it. And this guy's questioning, am I the a-hole for this? And in my opinion, I absolutely say no, but I'm going to get into this story a little bit more, and I'll express my views and opinions on this particular subject a little bit at the end of the article, or in the story. So it starts off, he says, I am 39 years old, and my son, a 17-year-old male, Bryce, dated our neighbor Lana, a 17-year-old female, for a year. They broke up in mid-January for reasons I don't know. I won't sugarcoat this, I never liked Lana. She always seemed a little unhinged, controlling, and aggressive. She's always demanding Bryce's attention, and there were quite a few times when she just showed up on our house out of nowhere, whether it was 7 a.m. or 11 p.m., because Bryce wasn't answering his phone, and she was screaming and calling him a cheater when it wasn't like that at all. This girl was showing up at your house, yelling and screaming, sometimes 11 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock in the morning. I would tear that one a new a-hole. That's what I would do. I'd also be over at her parents' house in the neighborhood, tearing them a new one. Say, get your crazy fucking daughter off my property, blah, blah, blah. And that kid of mine wouldn't be dating her at all. If in a hypothetical situation where I actually had a kid, believe me, he wouldn't be dating her. But right here, what does this say about the son dating a gal like this? She's probably hot, because the hot crazy scale. A lot of guys can't turn away or back away from a girl who's hot, even if she's freaking nuts. Because, those types are usually crazy in bed. Anyhow, he says here, the thought of our son getting accused or abused by his girlfriend made us worried so much. My wife and I tried to talk to him out of the relationship. We said how that it was not normal nor healthy. We didn't want to force the breakup because we feared Lana would lash out to him, so we tried to do it in a sneaky way. We don't know if it worked, but they ended up breaking up. Again, what does this say about her? Grown-ass adults having fear that this girl, 17-year-old minor, was going to lash out like that. Well, as you're going to see, their fears were justified given the actions of what happened. He said that after he broke up with Lana, she didn't contact him, which was weird because he expected her to go nuts. But I told him that if fate didn't give him a shit, he better not tease it. Now the problem is that we bought our son a car for Christmas. Nothing fancy, but enough to get him to school, his job, and eventually college. He parks in our driveway outside of our home. Ever since the month that began, we've been finding scratches all over his car. We know Lana was doing it because it was a minimal. My son decided to not do anything, even if we could prove that it was her. He says we have CCTV. Still, something smells bad for me, so I decided to switch on one of the cameras facing his car directly just in case. Given that crazy neighbor, I would have had the CCTV cameras on all the time. Well, 2 weeks ago, we got up and found my son's car covered in a lot of shit. Paint, glue, feathers, confetti. The door handles were wrecked, flat tires, paint all over the windows. You get the picture. Bryce and my wife were so distraught. We called the police, and I handed them the CCTV that showed Lana and her brother, a 23-year-old male, destroying my son's car. Jackpot. Not that this is a good thing, of course, but right then and there. But listen to that again. Wrecked flat tires, paint on the windows, feather, confetti, door handles are broken. I mean, you want to talk about freaking psycho here. And he had a reason to be concerned that she wasn't screaming and throwing a tantrum when the son broke up with her. But now he's got him on camera. We pressed charges, and needless to say, Lana's brother went straight to jail. But since she's still a minor, her parents want to make a deal, but I refused. Good for you, bro. No deal for her. I don't think she should get away with it. Before the police were here, she was laughing her ass off and tried to play cool. If she thought this was funny, then she's old enough to face the consequences. My wife and I want to stand our ground. They said they'll buy our son a better car and put Lana on therapy, but it's not enough. Am I the a-hole? Absolutely not. This girl deserves to have everything coming to her, obviously within the legal limits, because she's 17 years old, technically a minor. They got proof of it on camera. She came on their property, trespassing, destroyed the car, vandalism, and not to mention she roped in her older brother, a 23-year-old male. His ass is off to jail, which is great. And what kind of family raises kids like this, okay? That says a lot about the parents. And again, this shows this guy knew this girl was a problem, but runs in the family. But absolutely not. This guy should prosecute or press charges as much as he can do to bust this girl, not just out of revenge but also for society. Because if the parents make a deal and she gets away with this, what's next? Is she gonna off at somebody's pet? What else is she gonna do, right? It will break into the house, attack someone. This is the problem with the generation today, and I've addressed this. I had a similar video I covered a few times on my other channel. It was actually a video series where this young girl was destroying property, and the family wanted to make a deal. And I made the case. The problem is nowadays is that all these kids have these helicopter parents that let them get away with murder. And pretty much then they don't learn anything. They're spoiled, entitled, think they deserve everything, and they never grow up. And these kids become adults, and they raise kids. So for both revenge for what happened and our society, this guy needs to do this. And her parents need a freaking talking to because they're just allowing this bullshit. So in no way, shape, or form is this guy the bad guy here. Absolutely, she needs to be doing community service, maybe juvenile hall, whatever it can be. I'd love to see her do some time. I'm sure many of you guys would too. But destroying his car just because he broke up with her, freaking psycho. And I hope this son learns a lesson about these types of girls. Really. Now, a few comments, because they're always fun to back up what I'm saying here. One guy says, you can tell how the Lana's parents reacted, that they have been enabling their daughter's behavior and probably their son's behavior all this time. Well, it is high time they both learned some consequences. Don't forget to make sure that Lana's parents pay for the car repairs. Yeah, on top of pressing charges and everything, they can pay for the repairs. Or, because she's a minor, you can probably try to find a way to sue them too. Another guy says, replacing the car in therapy will only show her breaking the law doesn't lead to jail. She can smile and laugh in her mugshot. That wouldn't even be an issue if she were just 1 year older. If she was 1 year older, that would have been great. Another guy says, I absolutely agree with you. I read it, and when I got to the fact that her brother is 23 and helped her doing this instead of trying to talk her out of this, well, it just shows they both need a wake-up call. And if mommy and daddy bail her out of this situation she put herself into, what's she going to do to the next person that breaks up with her? Yeah, like I said, like offing the person's pet or breaking into their house or physically attacking them, it will escalate, guaranteed. And again, the brother's like this, so great job, mom and dad, raising them. He said, I'd 10,000% stand my ground, even if you were to say okay to a deal. Charges are usually through the state, and the state can still prosecute. But I would never let her go on a deal her parents make for her, because it's a car this time. What's to say the next person doesn't end up hurt or dead? Right, that's what I'm thinking. Another one says this. As someone who was an a-hole in high school, not as bad as Lana, but definitely was unnecessarily unkind to people who didn't deserve it, Lana needs a kind of a wake-up call to realize she's behaving in a way that is not appropriate. Not appropriate, that's a mild way of putting it. Her parents may be on top of it, they may not. Given that their son was in on it, they don't have a good track record for churning out functional members of society. Mental health issues do not excuse behavior. Mental health issues just help give a why, and that why can help with targeting what to do to help someone build who's a toolkit so they can make appropriate choices. There are plenty of road signs along the way when you're going from 0 to 100. It takes time to learn how to see and recognize them. You can't control what you do when you get to 100, but you can control your ability to check in on yourself and de-escalate yourself to prevent from reaching 100. Exactly. And I want to hear his mental health crap. The kid's an asshole. End of story. They're both assholes. Okay? And yeah, that's obviously a popular thing. Well, somebody has some kind of label or some mental problem. Therefore, they're excused for all the behavior and actions they do. Bullshit. And maybe she does. Okay, get her on some freaking medication, but she's still going to suffer the consequences of her actions. I'm tired of this world where so many kids and people get away with things because simply some bullshit or some helicopter parent covers for them. They're making the world a worse place. We don't need that. So, all right, guys, that is it for today. It was a quick one, but I thought it'd be an entertaining one to go over here. I'm loving the fact this guy's backing down. Good for him. Be sure to comment on the video and let me know what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.